Good morning, everybody. I want to give you guys just a little bit more time to work on this warm up. So I'm gonna put up a little clock here, and I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes to finish this up. Okay. So again, just make sure we try these problems out, and then we'll go over them because especially that third one, the multiply one, that's really going to impact what we're doing today. Okay. So we're going to have 2 minutes to finish up the warm-up. So welcome. 2 minutes to finish up the warm-up. Thank you for being here. We're just taking some time to finish up this warm-up. Thank you for being here. We're just taking some time to finish up this warm-up. All right, guys, let's go over this warm-up. So when we're factoring, I have it on freeze. When we're factoring, what we're looking for is we're looking for the biggest number and the biggest amount of letters that we can pull out, right? So if I look at the numbers first, right, it looks like, here, I'll close this. It looks like we have the biggest number here is 4. So what I would want to check, does 4 go into this, right? So when I say go into, that's another way of saying divide, right? So go into is another way of saying divide. So I go 24 divided by 4. So that's 6. So 4 goes into both of these. So I'm going to be able to pull out a 4. And then here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. And here I have 1, 2, 3 x's. So the most I'm going to be able to pull out from both of these is 3, right? I can take these 3 and I can take these 3, and then that tells me how many are left over, right? So I'm going to pull out a 4x cubed. And remember, if you guys have questions, please ask. I want to make sure you guys get this, okay? So then we're going to have what's left over, right? Because we're pulling things out. So we can work backwards. 4x cubed times what gives me 4x to the 4th? Well, 4 times 1 is 4. And then x cubed to x 4th, I'm just missing that 1x. So I can just write this as x. So 4x cubed times x would be 4x to the 4th. And then 4 times what gives me 24? Well, I did that on my calculator, right? So it's 6. Okay, and then the x cubed is the same, so it's just x plus 6. Okay, and if you want to check your work, you can always just multiply that out to see if you get the original statement. Okay, so that's it. That's our answer. Okay, if you guys have questions, let me know. Okay, let's do this next one. So for this next one, I'm going to take a look. So the biggest number here is 3. The biggest number here is 9. So let's check to see if 3 goes into 9. Remember, goes into means division. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, okay? So I'm going to pull out a 3. And then here I have 2 x's, and here I have 1 x. So if I pull out 1 x, I can pull out 1 x here, and I'm left with 1 x, okay? So I'm going to pull out a total of 3x. Then we're going to figure out, okay, so if I pull out 3x, what's left, right? What's left in here? So 3 times 1 is 3. X times x is x squared, so I'm just going to have an x here. And then we got to be careful of this negative, right? So we know that 3 goes into 9 3 times, but this is a negative, so it's going to be a negative 3. Okay, and you can always double check by multiplying, right? 3x times negative 3 would be negative 9x. Okay. So how are we doing, guys? How are we doing with the factoring? I haven't heard anybody ask a question yet. Are we doing okay? Did I go too fast? Thank you. I appreciate the feedback, guys. I really do. It helps me know where you guys are. Okay. All right. So the multiply. So we're gonna really, yeah, awesome. Oh, good stuff, guys. So what we're gonna do here is today we're gonna be doing the opposite of multiply, right? So right, which is divide, which a fancy word for it is factor. So we're gonna be doing this today. So remember, to do this, what we did is this is 2 terms and this is 2 terms. So we made a 2 by 2 box. Okay, we made a 2 by 2 box. So it doesn't matter where I put these on my box. I just have to put, right? I could have x plus 3 here and x minus 2 up here. But then, do you see how there's 4 small boxes? I'm going to find the area of each small box. So, and we just do this like you guys used to do with multiplication tables. You guys used to do that, right, when you were younger? So I'm going to go x times x, that is x squared. Be careful not to write 2x, right, because that means x plus x. So this is multiplication. So this is, right, if I have x times x, that's x squared. Okay, if you have x plus x, that's 2x. Okay, so that's the difference there. Okay, so make sure that you guys are doing okay there. And then here I have negative 2 times x, so that's negative 2x. I have x times 3, so that's 3x. And I have negative 2 times 3, so that's negative 6. Okay, so what I did is I used multiplication to find the area of all the small boxes. So now I want to add up all the small boxes to get the total area. So the total area here is x squared, right? And then I got a negative 2x and a positive 3x and a negative 6. And again, the order here doesn't matter. But I can combine these, right? So I have negative 2 plus 3. So that's going to be a positive 1. Right? That's like saying you have $3, but then you spent $2 and you only have 1 left. Okay, like that. So today, what we're going to focus on, we're going to go nice and slow. We're spending 3 days on this. Today, we're just going to focus on doing this backwards, right? So we factored out 1 term, but what we're going to do now is we're going to start here and we're going to end here. Okay, so we're going to do everything backwards. Okay, now of course, when you do something backwards, that makes it harder, right? So we're going to go nice and slow. And if you guys have questions, just please ask, and then we'll all be good, right? We'll get there. We'll get there together, okay? So we're going to start here with a trinomial, and then we're going to factor it into 2 binomials. Okay? That's our lesson today, all right? So to do that, you're like, how the heck are we going to do this backwards? We're going to notice a pattern, okay? We're going to notice a pattern, and I'm going to do this with just letters. And I know some people freak out when it's just letters. I'm going to do it with letters, and then we're going to see how it works in this last one, and then we'll do a couple together, okay? So, but to do this with letters first, let's say I have x plus p times x plus q. Okay. So again, p and q just represent, represent just some number. Okay. So how would we do this? Well, we're going to do this just like we did up here, right? I have two terms. So I'm going to have a 2 by 2 box. Okay, don't be intimidated by the P and Q. We're fine. So it doesn't matter where I put them. So I might have X plus P on the top and then X plus Q on the left. It doesn't matter if you switch the P and the Q. Okay, now you're like, Kreft, why are we doing this? Why are we doing P and Q? We're doing this, guys, because we're going to see a pattern. Okay, and because when you do it with letters, it's not a specific number. So that means that if we find a pattern, it works for any number P and Q. That's what we're looking for. That's what's cool about math. We're kind of doing a proof. So x times x, remember that's x squared, not 2x. Then I'm going to have px. It's like if PlayStation and Xbox got together, right? So we'd have a px. And then I have qx. And then I have pq. Okay. Now, I agree, this looks kind of funky without numbers, right? But hold on, this next part is what's going to bring everything together. So if I write these out, right, I'm going to add these together. I have x squared plus px plus qx plus pq. Now, notice in the middle, right? So I'm focusing on the middle with the px and the qx. Notice how they both have an x in them. So I can write this like this. I can say p plus q times x. Because didn't we factor out an x? That's what we just did. Yeah, it is. It is kind of like Punnett squares. So that's where it comes from. Well, Punnett squares come from this. But let's not get into that. So I just factored out an x, right? See how they both had an x in them? I'm just factoring out an x because they both had an x in common. And then I have plus pq. Now, this is it, guys. This is the, so make sure you have this down because this is the pattern. Notice here, right? Now, if you're being really fancy, this is called the linear term. You guys don't need to know that. But if you guys want to be fancy and show off your math skills, it's called the linear term, as in a line, linear, because it's like your slope times x. You don't need to know that, though. I'm just throwing that out there, okay? So this is called your linear term. But your middle, we can just call it the middle term. See how it's in the middle? Okay, see how it's, the middle term is adding p and q. So the middle term is adding p and q. Okay, so it's almost like a shortcut, right? You guys see how it's a shortcut? Like instead of doing this box, I can just add these two, throw an x with it, right? Kind of cool, right? And so we're going to use this pattern to work backwards. Now, the other thing, right? So this middle one right here, right? Maybe I should circle it in red so you guys really know. There we go. So that middle term, which is the fancy word is linear term, is adding p and q. But then take a look at this last term. Now this last term, the fancy name is called a constant. Again, you don't need to know that, okay? So that's called a constant term because it's a number and it doesn't change, right? So x changes, it's a variable. This has no x in it, so it's called a constant term. Notice how this last term is multiplying. P and Q. And that's the pattern, guys. That's how we're going to do this. We're going to use the fact that this last term is just multiplying two numbers, and this middle term is the same two numbers but adding. Now you're going to be like, Krept, I don't believe you. Well, let's go back to the problem we did in the warm-up, and I'll show you it's true. Okay. Do you guys have this down? Are we good? Okay. So I'm saying that the last term is these two numbers multiplied. So let's check it out. 3 times -2 is... Oop. I'm going to wait for a little bit. Make sure everyone gets that down. And thank you for letting me know. I appreciate that. I got my second vaccine shot today, and I'm in a lot of pain. So if I don't sound as excited and energetic today, I have a major headache and my body is aching like crazy, which is normal. It's very normal. It's what should happen. Okay, so now let's go back up. So take a look at this last term. I said this last term should be, yeah. So this last term is multiplication. Okay, so I'm going to take these two numbers and multiply them. So 3 times -2 is -6. And then this middle term, that's addition. So 3 plus -2 is 1, and then I add an x to it. Do you guys see how that looked? Right? So that pattern is right here. So we're going to use this pattern, guys. We're going to use this pattern to be able to work backwards. Okay. Yeah, I thought about getting a sub today or just doing a video, but I mean, I'm at home, so I guess if I just don't feel well, it's not too bad. And I'm not going to, it's not a big deal. All right, so you know what? I'm just going to flip this page over because I want more space. All right, so guys, are we going to do this? We're going to factor. We're going to factor. Oh, I should say factor present. Right. We're doing something. We're factoring x squared plus bx plus c. Don't worry about the a, b, and c, but the a is going to be 1. And you don't need to worry about why is the a 1. It's just it turns out when a is 1, it's really easy. So we're going to start out easy, and then we're going to go from there. Okay? So to do this, the first one we're going to look at is this. So here's our example 1. And we're going to do this together. And if you guys have questions, just please let me know. So I have x squared plus 10x plus 16. And we're going to factor it. Okay. So to do this, we're going to work backwards. Okay. So remember here, we're just going to start. We're going to start here, and then we're going to go like that. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a box. Well, I'll show you what we're going to do. Oh yeah, let's get a box. Okay. So in a box, okay, the squared term or the first term okay, so the squared term, or we can just call it the first term, is always in the upper right. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So that means that right here, I have x squared. Okay, so the squared term, or the first term, is always in the, oops, I don't know my left versus my right. The upper left. Okay. So it's always going to be in the upper left. 2, the constant term, or the last term, right, which is 16 in our case, is always in the lower right. So that's right here. Okay. Okay, so that's how we get this started. So the first thing you always do is you put your squared term or your first term in the upper left, and you put your last term or your constant term in the bottom right. So now we're going to have to do a little adventure. So now we're going to do a little math, okay? The last 2 boxes right? So I'm talking about these boxes right here. So the last 2 boxes must, 1, they have to multiply to the last term, and 2, add to the middle term. I guess, okay. Hey guys, I'm going to add something here. So multiply it to the last term. I should be correct. This makes it more complicated though. Multiply it to the last term times the first term. That makes it more complicated though, doesn't it? Let's just have it written down so you have it something to written down, then we're going to do it and it's going to make so much more sense. Okay? So it must multiply to the last term times the first term, and it's going to add to the middle term. And I'll show you what this means. Okay? So to do this, I use a visual aid. I use a big X. And on the top, I'm going to put multiply. And then on the bottom, I'm going to put add. Okay, so on the top I put multiply, on the bottom I put add. If you just want to use symbols, right, you can just put a dot and a plus. Okay, so it's going to multiply to the last term times the first term. So that's 16 times x squared. Okay, and then it's going to add to the middle term, and the middle term is 10x. So it's going to multiply, right? See how we get the 16? It's going to multiply to that, and it's going to add to 10. The only thing that we're really adding in is the x's, right? The x's. So now we have to play a game. We have to guess and check. We need 2 numbers that multiply to 16, and we need the same 2 numbers have to add to 10. So let's start with the multiply list. What numbers multiply to get 16? Can you guys help me out in chat? What numbers multiply to get to 16? Yeah, 1 and 16. Okay, but if I add 1 and 16, right, 1 plus 16 is 17, so that wouldn't work. Okay, I see someone said 2 times 8, and then, was there another one? 4 times 4? Okay, so we're going to see what they add to now. So these add to 17, Oh my gosh, that's the one we want, right? 4 plus 4 is 8. So this is the one we want, right? So these two numbers, they multiply to get 16, and they add to get 10. So I'm going to write, and it doesn't matter where you put these answers, I'm going to have 2x and 8x. And you can double check. 2x times 8x is 16x squared, and 2x plus 8x is 10x. Now I'm going to stop there for a second to make sure you guys have this written down. I know writing down a lot of words isn't for all of you, and you guys just like having examples. So make sure you have this down. Does anybody have well, I'm not done yet, so yeah. So what I just circled there, this is what we want. Okay, this is what we want. So what I'm going to do with these, so I have 2x and 8x, is I'm going to put these into my box. So I'm going to get 2x and 8x. Okay. So, and it doesn't matter where you put them. You can put the 8x on the bottom, you can put the 2x on the top. It doesn't matter the order. So that's really nice. We don't have to worry about order, okay? My last step, sorry, I'm going to have to write down my last step. The last step is factor out left to right, I should say columns and rows. To get the outside of the box. Sorry, I'm writing way too fast. As I keep writing too fast. So we're going to factor out the columns and rows to get the outside of the box. And again, we're just going to write this down once and then we're going to practice a whole bunch. Okay? So we're going to factor out the columns and rows to get the outside of the box. Okay, so we're going to factor out columns and rows to get the outside of the box. So this is what we're going to do. You guys ready? This is the end. I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to cover up the bottom row so I'm just looking at the top row, right? And you guys might be like, oh, I don't need to cover that up. Yeah, you do. Cover it up because you don't want to look at it. You're just looking at the top. So we're going to factor. So we got to figure out what they have in common. Well, the smallest number here is 1. 1 goes into 8, right? So I'm only going to put out a 1. This has 2 x's, and this has 1 x. So the only thing I can pull out is an x. And then as soon as you do that, do you guys want to know a shortcut? I can just work backwards now. If this is x, right? So all I did, do you guys see how I factored out an x? Sorry, I'm going too fast. I'm getting excited. Sorry. Just a second. So I factored out an x. Woo. I factor out an x, so then we can just work backwards with multiplication. What times x gives me x squared? Well, that would be another x. Or you could do the factory and say, what can I factor out of x squared and 2x? Well, I can only pull out a 1 here, and then I can only pull out 1x. So check it out. X times x is x squared. Okay? And then I can find the rest. I can say, okay, x times what gives me 8x? Well, I already have the x, so what I'm missing is the positive 8. And then I can do the same thing here. X times what gives me 2x? Well, that would be 2, positive 2. And then we double check. 2 times 18 is 16. So these are my factors. Okay, those are my factors. So my answer is these. It would be x plus 8 times x plus 2. Man, that was a lot of notes for one problem, wasn't it? Holy moly. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do try to do as many as we can of these today. And we're just going to try to get like, okay, this is what I'm doing. It's very formulaic, right? There's a formula, there's steps. It's the same every time, okay? I know it's a lot, but you guys can do it. All right, how are we doing? Did you guys get this down? Because now we're going to do one without all the extra writing, and we're just going to go through the process. And you're going to see it goes a lot quicker, more quickly. All right. That was a lot of work, wasn't it? I'm totally with you. Yeah. Keep writing, keep writing. Hey, but the thing is, it was a lot of work because it was the first time we've done something, right? Every time you do something for the first time, it's always going to be harder, right? But we're going to keep practicing it, and then by the end of this class and next class, you guys are going to be so good at it, like for real. You guys are gonna feel pretty confident. Okay, thank you for letting me know. All right, so let's do one together without all that fancy dancy note taking stuff, right? Okay, here we go. So we're going to factor. Remember, factor is just a fancy way of saying dividing. So we're going to say x squared plus 9x plus 14. Okay, so again, I'm working backwards here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a box. Okay, I'm going to draw a box. Now, do you guys remember? I'm going to put my first term, right? My first term in the upper left. And I'm going to put my last term in the bottom right. Okay, so there's your first step, right? So I put my first term in the upper left. I put my last term in the bottom right. And remember, this is called the squared term because it's squared. And this is called the constant term because it doesn't have an x in it. Okay. Now I need to find these two boxes. Okay, I need to find these two boxes. So I'm going to make that big X. And on the top, I'm going to have multiplication. And on the bottom, I'm going to have addition. So I'm looking for two numbers that are going to multiply to 14x squared, right? So how did I get that? I multiplied these two together, right? So I took this number times this number, then I get 14x squared. And then I'm going to add to my middle number. Okay, so I multiply to these numbers multiplied, and I multiply to these numbers multiplied, and then I add to this middle term. Okay, so then I'm going to make a list over here. So how do I multiply to get 14? Can you guys help me out? What times what gives me 14? This is kind of like a mini game. You know, like if you're playing a video game and you're on a major quest and there's like side quests, think of this as a side quest. So what things multiply to get 14? What times what? Okay, so 2 and 7. Okay, what about 14 and 1? Oops, that's a 14. I'm so sorry. 14 and 1. Is there any other ones? Okay, and then we can see what they add up to, right? So what do they add up to? 2 plus 7 is 9. 14 plus 1 is 15. Do we have a winner? We sure do. Check this one out. That's the one we want, right? So it's 2 times 7. So we're going to have a 2x and a 7x. And before we declare victory, let's double check everything. 2x times 7x. Well, 2 times 7 is 14. X times x is x squared. 2x plus 7x would be 9x. So those are the goods. I'm going to pause there. How are we doing? Do you guys see how this is going a lot faster? Without all those notes. I worry maybe I'm going too fast because I'm getting excited. Okay. So then we're going to take these two numbers and we're going to put them in these diagonals. And it doesn't matter. How did I get the 14x squared? I multiplied these two. Okay, now the thing is, when a is 1, you don't really need that, but down the road, if you guys take Algebra 2, you will need to know that. So that's why I throw it in there. I know it makes things more complicated, but if we don't do it now, then down the road, you're going to be so confused, okay? So that's where we're getting that top. Thank you for asking. So it doesn't matter where we put these. Yeah. I don't want to lie to you guys and not teach you the real stuff. I'm always going to teach you the real stuff. All right, so I got, so again, you can put them wherever you want. The trick here is you just need to factor once to get started. So I always like starting with the top row. So I look here, I have 1x squared and I have 2x. So the biggest number I can pull out is 1. And this has 2 x's and this has 1x. So I can just pull out an x. Now that I have this, then I can just do multiplication. I can do guess and check. So for example, if I take a look at this upper one, what times x gives me x squared? X. Then I can look at this next one. What times x gives me 2x? That's 2, right? And it's a positive 2, so we know it's x plus 2. Then I look down here. What times x, right? What times x gives me 7x? Well, that's positive 7. And then always double check to make sure you got it correct, because 2 times 7 should equal 14. So what does this equal? It equals x plus 2 times x plus 7. This is factored form. All right. Now, I said they were going to go faster, and that went a lot faster, right? Now, remember, if you guys are watching me, I can make this look really easy, okay? But we're going to have to do it. You're going to have to do it until you know how easy or hard it is, okay? We're going to do one more of these together because it really is like a process. And it's the same process every time. So we're going to do one more of these together. And then hopefully at the end, I'm going to have an opportunity for you guys to try a couple on your own, okay? We excited about that? I'm excited about that. I think you guys you're gonna be better at this than you think. All right. Let's do one more together. And then I'll have you guys try at least one on your own, okay? So we're going to factor. Okay, that's the key word here. I'm going to have x squared plus 7x plus 6. So I want to put this in factors. I want to break it up, right? So division breaks things up. So I want to break this up into 2 pieces. That's what factoring means here, right? I'm going to break it up into 2 or more pieces. So to do that, we're always going to be doing a 2 by 2 in this class, right? You get to further classes, you can do more crazy stuff, but we're only going to do 2 by 2s, okay? And where does this x squared go? The x squared always goes in the upper left. And that's the first term. So first term upper left. The last term, or the constant term, that's in the bottom right. Okay. And then you don't have to use this visual aid, but this visual aid is a lifesaver for me. So what am I gonna multiply? What am I gonna add to? So remember, to get my multiplication, right? I'm gonna take these 2 numbers, 6 times x squared. So 6 times x squared. Okay. And how did I get this multiplication? I multiplied, right? And that's a cool way to remember. You put the multiplication symbol and you think, oh yeah, I multiplied to get that. Okay. So it's just a little reminder too. So 6 times x squared is 6x squared. And then this number down here is always my middle number or my linear term. So I have 7x. And if you think about it, a line is when we add, right? A line is when you add the same thing over and over again. That's why it's called the linear term. Okay, so how are we doing so far? Are we doing okay, guys? You're gonna try the next one. So like, just let me know if you're not like if you're getting stuck or you're confused. You're gonna try the next one. So this is our little mini game, right? I have to think of things that multiply to 6. Right? So what are some things that multiply to 6? Can you guys share with me? Okay, so I have 3 times 2. I have 1 times 6. I think that's it. Right? So now let's see what they add to. So 3 times 2, or 3 plus 2, sorry, is 5. And 1 and 6 is 7. So that's the one we want, right? We want 1 times 6 is 6. And 1 plus 7 is, 1 plus 6 is 7. So, right? 1, we don't usually write the 1, so I can just write x, and then I can write 6x. So always double check your work, because this is where mistakes can happen. X times 6x would give me 6x squared. That looks good. X plus 6x, right? 1x plus 6x is 7x. So this is my answer. All right, so then I'm going to put these in here. It doesn't matter where I put them. I'm going to take my finger, I'm going to cover up the bottom row, and I'm going to say, hey, what can I pull out here, right? And I hope you guys are noticing a pattern, right? When a is 1, it's almost always just x, right? When a is 1. So that's the really nice thing. It makes the factoring really easy, okay? So then I think, okay, what times x gives me x squared? And that's x. And then I think, what times x gives me 6x? Well, that's a positive 6. And then I think, what times x gives me x? Remember, 1 is a number, so we can use that. It's just x plus 1. And then let's double check. 6 times 1 is 6. So my answer is x plus 1. And again, the order doesn't matter. And x plus 6. Okay, so hopefully we're starting to build some confidence. You're like, okay, that first one was too much. Like my brain was about to implode. Goo was coming out of my ears and my nose, right? But hopefully you guys are feeling a little bit better about this. Okay, it's like, hey, there's a process. There's a formula. I just have to follow the process, right? So I'm going to have you guys try this next one. Okay. So this next one, this is yours. Okay, you guys are doing this next one. We're going to factor x squared plus 9x plus 8. Okay, and I'm going to give you guys a little timer. I want to give you guys a lot of time for this. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes enough? Let's try 3 minutes and see what happens. All right, guys. Hopefully that was enough time. Let's go over this together, and we're gonna. I think. Well, we'll see how much time we have. Okay, so I want to break this up into two parts. That's what factoring means. I'm gonna break it up. So we're always gonna have a 2 by 2 for right now. Okay. In the upper left, I'm gonna put the squared term or the first term. In the bottom right, I'm going to put the last term or the constant term. If you got this right, you should be like, heck yes, okay? Because that means you got the first step correct. If you didn't get this step correct, write it down and be like, hey, I got to get this process down, okay? Because I know we're going to be in different places. Okay, so I'm going to have multiplication up top, addition down bottom. So to get this multiplication, I'm going to multiply these two. So I'm going to have 8x squared. And then for that middle term, that's going to be down here, right? So that middle term, that linear term is my adding. Hey, and if you got this, give yourself a pat on the back, right? That's good stuff. So we're going to play the little mini game, right? Our little side adventure now. So I got to think of things that multiply to 8, right? So you might have 8 and 1, 2 times 4. I think that's it. It's nice having nice numbers, right? So what do they add to? So 8 plus 1 is 9. 2 plus 4 is 6. I want 9. So I'm going to have these. Okay, so again, it doesn't matter where you put them, but I'm going to have 8x and x. Remember, 1 is still a number, right? 1 is something. It's not 0. So we got to put, right? We just don't normally write the 1 in front of the x. So let's double check. 8x times x, that's 8x squared. And then I have 8x plus 1x, that's 9x. So that's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in here. Okay, I don't want to be going too fast, so please let me know if I'm going too fast. I'm going to take my finger or my pen, and I'm going to cover up this bottom part. So taking a look here, what do they have that I can pull out in common? And again, for our class, it's going to be nice and easy to start out with. It's almost always going to be an x, right? I can just pull out one x here. Then I can just work backwards with multiplying. What times x gives me x squared? Well, that's going to be x. And then I think, okay, what times x gives me x? Well, when you multiply by 1, that's when you get x, right? So x times 1. And then what times x gives me 8x? That's a positive 8. And then we just double check. 1 times 8 equals 8. Okay. So my answer is, and again, it doesn't matter the order. I'm switching up the order in my notes on purpose so that you guys see it doesn't matter. Okay, that's our answer. Well, wonderful, guys. We got to the end of class. You're going to have 4 homework problems, and all they are is this. You're going to be given a trinomial, and it's going to ask you to factor it. And so I really want you guys to try. And if you guys get stuck, if you get frustrated, send me an email, come to my office hours. We can do the problems together. But I just wanted to make sure you guys are getting that practice, okay? So your homework assignment is due Monday next week, right? Next week is the last week before spring break. So let's get all of our homework assignments done before spring break so that you guys can enjoy spring break and not have to worry about math, okay? All right, that's it.